The following is a project of our nonprofit newsroom. Support Midcoast Morning and local community-centered journalism today by signing up to be a monthly sustaining donor at chly.ca/donate. It doesn't take much money to support local news.
Hello and welcome to Midcoast Morning. I'm Joe Pugh. Healthcare was on the agenda for all three candidates in the new Nanaimo Lantzville riding this week. George Anderson, Gwen O'Mahony, and Lia Versavel debated Wednesday at an all-candidates forum at Wellington Secondary School. It was organized by the RDN and the Nanaimo Regional Hospital District. The Nanaimo Lantzville riding covers roughly the area north of Beach Estates Park and Waddington Road through to Lantzville. There is no incumbent candidate. Healthcare in Nanaimo has been in the spotlight on the campaign trail. On September 26th, Premier David Eby pledged to build a new patient tower at Nanaimo Regional General Hospital if re-elected. At a campaign stop the following day, Conservative leader John Rustad said that such a facility would go ahead under a Conservative government as well. I reached out to the Green Party's media spokesperson, who confirmed that their party is also supportive of a new patient tower. A new tower and a cardiac catheterization lab have been among the priorities of the Nanaimo Regional Hospital District for years. The Fair Care Alliance, a coalition of medical, municipal, Indigenous, and regional leaders, says that the North and Central Island region is the largest population in Canada without a cardiac catheterization lab, while there are two in Victoria. To start today's program, we'll bring you the section of Wednesday night's All Candidates Forum dedicated to healthcare infrastructure in Nanaimo. You'll hear from moderator Kim Smythe, NDP candidate George Anderson, Conservative candidate Gwen O'Mahony, and Green Party candidate Lia Versavel.
So our final question on healthcare, and our most robust one yet. The RDN has one of the fastest growing and oldest populations in Canada, and these trends are expected to continue. We have a higher percentage of seniors than the rest of the province, a population with significantly higher healthcare needs. The population complexity of medical needs across the entire Central and North Island is also growing, while our health infrastructure at NRGH does not meet modern standards. There are also significant disparities between healthcare infrastructure and specialized services available south of the Malahat versus north of the Malahat. Recently, all three party leaders have made campaign commitments to build a new patient tower at NRGH. If elected, what will you do to ensure these projects move forward as quickly as possible and bring more specialized services to residents in the Central and North Island? And we're starting with George on this one.
Thank you, Kim. Again, as I've mentioned, I was happy to be able to host this town hall with David Eby where we announced a new patient tower. Again, we've worked with the regional district. We've also worked with the regional hospital board. Ian Thorpe is here, who would know a lot about the fact that this regional district, which I was a part of for 3 years, actually is putting the money aside to be able to build it. It's going to take some time. But the fact is that we're actually making these investments for healthcare here in Nanaimo. We've seen a new intensive care unit. We have seen a lot of investment that Nanaimo has often been ignored. And David Eby and the BC NDP have focused on making sure that these investments are here. As I mentioned, go and walk around and you will see the new urgent and primary care facility. That's actually taking investment and putting it into this region. Whereas again, Ms. O'Mahony's talking about non-governmental resources. You're not going to see you're not going to see a patient tower because they'll end up saying, you know what, it costs too much money. You're talking about a deficit. Well, let me tell you, how do you build a patient tower? It costs money. It's a reality. The same of having nurses. We've hired 6,300 nurses, 800 new family doctors this year. That's, again, what we need to be doing. And yes, it costs money, but let me tell you, the fact is that this will mean that there will be healthcare resources for your children, your grandchildren, and many other individuals. So making sure that this happens fast, it's going to take some time, but it'll be working alongside the regional district to ensure that they have their portion of funds to be able to pay for the new patient tower and continue to do these type of services and type of investments in our community. Bless you, by the way. That's what we need to be doing. Thank you.
Gwen.
Thank you. I think she's allergic to dishonesty. Where were you, George, when the Fair Care Alliance had a public meeting that was really important? Brett Fee, our candidate for Oceanside, Dale Parker, my colleague for Nanaimo Gabriela, myself, the two Green Party candidates, we all showed up and we listened to our community because that's the role of a person who is running for office. You show up. You show up whether the people like you or not. You show up. We publicly signed and declared our support for the tower and for the cath lab. I think that needs to be recognized. It wasn't until those polls showed that Nanaimo Lantzville is leaning towards conservative that EB jumped in and made a last-ditch effort to say that he's going to build the tower. Let me tell you something. The news is reporting on this tower. We badly need it. I don't know if you've seen it, but there's cockroaches apparently in the hospital. But here's your track record, your party's track record. This one example is a Surrey hospital. It was announced in 2019 that you were going to build it, your party, but it didn't. It got pushed aside until 2023. It would have been $1.7 billion, but because you stalled out, it ballooned to $2.88 billion. And now it's going to be until 2030 before that hospital is built. This comes down to trust. Vote for me, vote for the Conservative Party of BC. That tower will get built.
Thank you. Lia, please.
Thank you. One of the ways that we can immediately begin to make more doctors and healthcare professionals available to us is to facilitate the accreditation of doctors and other medical persons who are new Canadians, who are here living amongst us and yet unable to work in their professions. This is a challenge not only, of course, in medicine, but also in education and many other sectors of our economy. It's not a Band-Aid, it's not a one fix, it's an ongoing challenge that we must train nurses and doctors and all medical professionals locally. My daughter is living in Australia. In Australia, they have recently made it possible for students coming out of high school to enter a 4-year nursing program. If they can qualify to get into the program, the government will pay their tuition. They are not faced with student debt. They are not faced with unaffordable housing because they are housed while they are taking the programs. If Australia can do it, so can we. We have so many people in this province who do not have a primary care physician. Again, this dogwood model that the Greens are putting forward brings healthcare services right to a local community. We also need to encourage people to use 811 resources. Call a nurse, call a health professional before they go to the ER and to urgent care facilities. We have within the RDN programs where people can access resources. My time is up.
All three candidates in the Nanaimo Lantzville riding speaking about healthcare in Nanaimo at a forum Wednesday night.
Midcoast Morning is made possible by the Community Radio Fund of Canada and generous listeners like you. Support and grow our nonprofit newsroom project today at chly.ca/donate with a monthly or one-time donation. With your support, we can expand Midcoast Morning from 2 to 3 original programs per week to cover local news, current affairs, and arts and culture.
We've been talking about healthcare in Nanaimo and the provincial election on today's program. Healthcare inequalities north of the Malahat is a topic CHLY has been following for a while now. In August, Jack Corfield spoke on this program with Fair Care Alliance Chair Donna Hayes. Here's a portion of that conversation.
The Fair Care Alliance was formed to advocate for comprehensive and appropriate care for regions north of the Malahat. What is the state of the situation at this time?
So currently, Central and North Vancouver Island are serviced by a tertiary hospital, which is Nanaimo Regional General Hospital. And we service 460,000 people, which are in our catchment area. And currently, south of the Malahat, there's 430,000 people. We only have 346 hospital beds to take care of those that live north of the Malahat. They have 844 south of the Malahat. And we are grossly lacking in infrastructure. We need our hospital towers from 1962. We don't have a cath lab. As a matter of fact, we're the largest population in Canada that live below the standard of care in terms of heart health. And so Fair Care has come together to really create that awareness within our community so that during this provincial election, we can vote and make it very clear to our provincial government that healthcare is a priority here.
And speaking of the upcoming election in October, what do people need to know about the sort of political aspects of what's going on here with this particular project?
We are slowly getting more infrastructure. I want to acknowledge that up front, that there has been a cancer center announced here. We have had, our ICU has been rebuilt in the last few years, and those are great things, but they are not nearly what we need. And so we need an announcement that encompasses and addresses our full need, just as you've seen in Surrey. Surrey got an announcement for a whole new hospital, tower, cath lab, all of it. We need an announcement for all of that infrastructure to come to Central Vancouver Island. And I would encourage those, our constituents, to vote for the government that is promising that type of infrastructure.
What kind of healthcare access can be improved in those more distant communities where they're not going to be able to get a cath lab and they're not going to be able to get access to a huge number of beds, and they're going to still have to travel all the way to Nanaimo?
Yeah. So what actually happens at those hospitals, being community hospitals, is if I break my arm or I need my appendix out, they're my go-to place. So if I'm in Campbell River and I break my arm, I'm going to that hospital. Those surgeons are helping me. That's fantastic. They're doing a great job. But if I have a heart attack and I'm in Campbell River, you're going to get on a helicopter that's going to bring you to Nanaimo. And right now, Nanaimo can't help you because we don't have a cath lab, which means the helicopter may stop here for further diagnosis for you here, and then our guys are going to send you to Victoria, or it's going to go directly to Victoria. So there's still going to be some of that distance, but tertiary programs tend to all group at one location because tertiary patients are complex patients that need multi-levels of care. And right now, the only tertiary program we have out of Nanaimo is our kidney program, which is our lead for kidney. Our nephrology is actually based out of Nanaimo, but that's why we are petitioning the government so hard to get the cath lab here in Nanaimo as kind of our next step, with the tower following quickly behind, because we need to be taking care of those heart and stroke patients on the rest of Vancouver Island, because right now we can't.
Fair Care Alliance Chair Donna Hayes speaking with Jack Corfield on this program in August. Calls for a cardiac catheterization lab in Nanaimo have been ongoing for years. In August of 2023, then CHLY reporter Mick Sweetman filed this report, which provides more detail on the consequences of Nanaimo not having a cath lab. You'll hear first from Mick, then from Dr. Hashim Kashmiri, a cardiologist at Nanaimo Regional General Hospital.
Instead of a cath lab where people can get life-saving angiograms, Dr. Kashmiri is limited to using clot busters.
Clot busters or thrombolytics, it's essentially a treatment that basically from the 1980s. And the biggest risks that are associated with that is bleeding, particularly intracranial bleeding, so basically bleeding into your brain. And we've definitely had cases like that here in Nanaimo. I had one case myself where a patient was given thrombolytics. If we don't get a response, which we assess by looking at the ECG and whether the patient's chest pain resolves within 60 to 90 minutes. If we don't get adequate response, then we try to ship them over to Victoria to have what we call a rescue angiogram, rescue PCI. Unfortunately, that patient did not respond to the thrombolytics, but on their way to Royal Jubilee Hospital, they had an intracranial bleed and they died.
Dr. David Copeland, president of the Nanaimo Regional General Hospital's Staff Association, joined Dr. Kashmiri and local politicians at a press conference on Tuesday saying that without a cath lab, people are dying unnecessarily.
The inequity is obvious. We also have the largest population we know of in Canada without timely access to a cardiac cath lab. And what does that mean? Access to a cath lab is the standard of care for heart attacks. And for a big heart attack, access and opening of the blocked arteries needs to occur within 90 minutes. This rarely happens for patients in central North Island who we're hours away from a cardiac cath lab over a mountain. The lack of cardiac services leads to undue harm to our patients, higher morbidity, mortality, poorer quality of life, and increased costs to patients and the system. The result is inadvertently two standards of care in the island, with central North Island below standard.
Nanaimo Chief Michael Wise needed an aortic valve in his heart replaced last year, but had to travel to Victoria for the procedure.
Today, I stand before you as someone who understands firsthand the gravity of heart problems. I'm here to emphasize the urgency of addressing a critical issue that affects our community's health and well-being. It is clear that a Central Island cath lab is a necessity, essential in ensuring the health and safety of our community. It is about ensuring that our community members receive the prompt care they need when they face cardiac emergencies.
Nanaimo Mayor Leonard Krogh says that the Nanaimo Hospital desperately needs a cath lab.
When you go over the other side of the Malahat, when you look at the number of specialists available, you look at the high quality of care that is available at Royal Jubilee Hospital, one of the outstanding places in Canada if you have a heart issue, that's a wonderful thing. But we're rather like the third world country on the other side of the Malahat here. We are not receiving the kind of world-class, first-class care that you get in the city of Victoria or if you live in the southern part of the island on the other side of the Malahat. So I say to the provincial government this morning, do the right thing, do the fair thing. If you can announce the cath lab in Surrey, announce one here.
Regional Hospital District Board Chair Ian Thorpe says the local hospital levy has more than doubled, rising from $16 in 2016 to $35 for every $100,000 of assessed property value to help pay for improvements to the hospital.
Usually politicians won't stand up and brag about tax increases, but this is one that I am happy to talk about and happy to defend because it represents a huge statement of our commitment to healthcare projects here. And I can honestly say that I have not had one resident complain about that health assessment when they learn why it is necessary. They understand. They get it.
Minister of Health Adrian Dix was unavailable for an interview, but said in a statement that a new cardiologist recently began working in the Central Island region and an additional cardiologist is scheduled to start at NRGH in September. Dix says that NRGH has the ability to perform a number of cardiac diagnostic procedures, while the Royal Jubilee Hospital in Victoria is a designated cancer care center for the island where specialized treatment, procedures, and equipment are available. For CHLY News, this is Mick Sweetman.
Former CHLY reporter Mick Sweetman speaking in August 2023 on calls for a cardiac catheterization lab in Nanaimo. Since that story was filed, a second cardiologist has started working at NRGH. Earlier on in the program, we heard from candidates in the Nanaimo Lantzville riding, speaking at a forum held this Wednesday. Following that forum, I caught up with Ian Thorpe, who we also heard from in the previous report. Thorpe is chair of the Nanaimo Regional Hospital District. Hospital districts are organizations that provide annual capital funding to health authorities in support of local healthcare facilities. The NRHD provides 40% of the funding for capital equipment and capital projects for local health facilities, and the province, through Island Health, provides the remaining 60% of capital funding. Here's my conversation with Chair Thorpe. So we're here, the forum has just wound up. What did you make of what went on here tonight?
Well, I was really pleased with the turnout, Joe, to start with. A full house tonight for the forum, and all three candidates from this riding were here to answer the questions. So I thought it was successful from that point of view, and I think interesting to hear the comments that all three had to make.
And you are the chair, of course, of the Nanaimo Regional Hospital District. Can you tell me about the specific areas that you're advocating for during this election campaign?
Sure, and good for you. That's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? So our local hospital is not a Nanaimo hospital per se. It's a Nanaimo regional hospital, which means it serves the area from basically the airport, Cedar in the south, up to Qualicum Bay in the north. And part of that area is to do with hospital services. And we have a separate board, which is the Hospital District Board, which I currently chair. And we work with Island Health to identify health priorities in the region and help fund those priorities. So over the past several years, it's become very obvious to our board that a real urgent need has been in the area of improvements to our hospital and its facilities. The need for a new patient tower, of course, everybody I hope is aware of that by now, and the need for a new cardiac catheterization lab, which we do not have, and also some other services which we've been working hard to obtain. So that has become a priority for our board, and we have tried to make that known to the public and also to the local, well, not to the local, but to the provincial government, because obviously we have to rely on them for funding and acknowledging that we have these needs.
So all of the candidates have pledged that they will build that patient tower at the very least. Is there anything the public needs to know as they try and evaluate what those promises mean?
Well, I think, first of all, it's important to understand that we have been advocating, the hospital board that is, has been advocating for the new patient tower and the cardiac cath lab for several years now. We've been meeting several times a year with Health Minister Dix, and it has taken us a long time to get an acknowledgement from the government that, yes, there is a real need for that tower here in Nanaimo. Just because of our growing population, our aging population, the fact that the hospital is 60 years old, it's overcrowded, it's really an unsafe place to work. So it is a priority, and it should be a provincial priority. Now, just recently this past year, Minister Dix indicated that, yes, they were starting to recognize that, and we were moving up the priority list. Then we had the announcement from Premier Eby the other day as a campaign promise that, yes, he acknowledged that he would support building the tower. That is a campaign promise. It's not an official commitment, and we hope that he will follow through with that, as we hope that leaders of the other provincial parties would equally follow through with that same promise. And we're hearing that from them, so it's encouraging. But again, we're going to need to see a concrete financial plan, a timeline, and a commitment from the government for funding.
And on the funding, the NRHD provides 40% of the funding, with the remaining 60% coming from the province. Where are we at in terms of being able to provide that 40% at any given moment?
Yeah, that's a really interesting funding formula. It stems from a Hospital District Act created in 1967, which is quite outdated. There have been efforts to ask the government to re-examine that funding formula. No response as yet. It's becoming a little bit unrealistic. 40% of a small build is one thing. 40% of a $2 billion hospital tower project is really just unwieldy for the taxpayers of this region. So what the Hospital District Board has been doing is setting aside money through a hospital tax levy each year. For the past 3 years, that's been a fairly aggressive tax levy increase, which people have noticed on their hospital bills. And we're putting that money aside in reserve to be able to show the government that we are doing our part. We're starting to put money aside, and we are committed to taking that responsibility. Now, how much money is in the reserve right now? I'm sorry, I don't have that information in front of me. It can be obtained through the RDN, though, through our finance department.
And what did you make of the specific exchange on that issue tonight at the debate? Is there, from your role, from your experience, do you take anything? Do you read much into exchanges like that and positions that come out at a forum?
Well, after Premier Eby made his announcement and I was interviewed, I said, well, I'm not popping the champagne cork yet. It is a campaign promise. But the reality is that that's more than we've had before. It's an acknowledgement, at least, that the government does recognize that we have a very legitimate need here in Nanaimo for a new patient tower. And they did not talk about a cath lab, but that, I hope, might be part of a new tower. So it's another step forward. It's an acknowledgement, as I say, by the provincial government that, yes, they see that Nanaimo does have a legitimate need, and hopefully they will follow through, all parties, on their promise to fund that and move ahead.
Could you give me a sense of, if this all goes ahead, if the campaign promises are kept, what kind of a time frame do you think we're talking about to when we could be breaking that champagne bottle over the new tower?
Well, again, in conversations with Minister Dix, even he acknowledged that if a government approved the project today, it likely would be at least 10 years before we saw the project completed. It's huge. So the sooner we get started, of course, the better, and we need to start immediately. A cath lab could happen sooner, but the government has made no commitment and no promise regarding that yet, and it's something that we also desperately need.
Anything else you think the public needs to know on this?
No, Joe, I really appreciate the fact that local media have helped spread the word and get the message out there that this is an important priority for our community, and it is an election issue, and I think we've seen that acknowledged by the candidates. So that's good news, and we'll move on from here.
Councillor Thorpe, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nanaimo Regional Hospital District Chair Ian Thorpe speaking with me following an all-candidates forum in the Nanaimo Lantzville riding on Wednesday. That's our show for the day. Thank you for joining me. I'm Joe Pugh, host and producer of Midcoast Morning. Jesse Woodward is our executive producer, and Arby Frew is our technical advisor. You can sign up for CHLY's newsletter at chly.ca/subscribe for updates from our nonprofit newsroom and more. Our theme song is First One by local Nanaimo band Waste Management. If you have a story you'd like us to cover, email us at news@chly.ca. That's all for now. I'll talk to you on another Midcoast Morning.
Midcoast Morning would not be possible without the funding of the Community Radio Fund of Canada's Radio Meters program and listeners like you. Midcoast Morning is a project of CHLY's nonprofit newsroom. Support nonprofit journalism in Nanaimo and on the Salish Sea today by becoming a monthly sustaining donor at $5 or more per month. Support the program at chly.ca/donate. If you're already a supporter, record a voice memo telling others where you're listening from and why they too should support our work. After you're done, you can email it to us. Also, share the podcast with your friends. While Meta is blocking Canadian users from sharing news content on their Facebook feeds, you can still share our podcast directly with your friends via Facebook or Instagram Messenger. Finally, this program acknowledges and gives thanks to the Nanaimo First Nation as we broadcast and podcast from their traditional territory. Thanks for listening.